Welcome back to Her Rules Radio. I'm Alex Jamieson, your hostess, your life, health, and success coach in your earbuds coming out of your computer. Thanks for joining us again today. I have seen a theme emerge from many of my coaching conversations with clients all over the world. And when I see a theme that touches on the same topic over and over again pop up in different conversations, I realize, this is something I need to talk about on the show. Like, if it's happening to these 4 women in the same 2 days, it's happening for others. And that is the theme of recommitting to our bodies and learning how to fall back in love with ourselves and our self-care over and over and over and over again. Okay, here's the deal. I get it. Like, we all overcorrect. We all get so busy and so focused on things beside ourselves that let's say we stray off the path of perfect health and self-care. What is that anyway? But how do we return? How do we get back on the path of committing to ourselves? There's a few things that I think about and a few themes that came up with my clients that without a basic level of energy, of sleep, we don't have the clarity, we don't have the health to do the work we want to do in the world. You know, without my body being strong and pain-free, I would kind of be useless. I am run down. I'm not able to commit. I'm not able to follow through. I don't show up as as the best mom or wife that I can be. And honestly, I've had enough physical pain in my life, so I know that having alcohol too often brings pain back. Having too much sugar brings pain back. And it's not just about the work, right? It's not just about the work we want to create. And I have a lot I want to create in this life, and that's only possible with energy and physical vitality and strength. But we have been given these bodies in this short time that we have left on Earth. And I've been lucky enough to find things that are fun to do while enjoying living in this body. And I wonder if you've taken the time lately to think about, what are the things that I love doing in my body? What's fun for me? A short list of mine is roller skating. I love, 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 love roller skating. Not so much in the winter, but in the summer and spring in New York City, there's several great outdoor skating rinks I can go to. Bird walks. I'm a total bird nerd. I love the Audubon Society. I go on bird walking tours all the time, and I love doing that. And I just can't do it if I don't feel good, if my knee hurts because I haven't been to Pilates, or if I'm tired because I haven't been eating well. I love hiking. I love snowboarding and dance. Who out there listening has loved to dance? That dance has been a major breakthrough or portal for you to experience real joy in your body. Think about those things that you love doing in your body that are fun for you. Those things usually get put at the bottom of the list. But in the last month, I've been super committed to waking up early every morning and meditating and writing, getting to Pilates twice a week, because I know that those things, like, I love getting up early before everybody else and lighting a candle and listening to a meditation and writing a few pages and then going to Pilates even when it's still dark and so cold. But I know that when I do these things consistently, I feel well. I enjoy living in my body, because our lives aren't just about work, right? Even though my health and strength contribute to the work that I want to do and the way that I help support my family, I'm not just about my job. I'm not just about my work. Who am I if I'm not my job? Who am I if I'm not all about thinking about what service I'm here to offer to the world? You and I, we are souls in a body, and we are here on this plane of existence for a short time. This body, your body, is a gift. And we sometimes forget that because we do live in a culture where many of us have been physically abused or traumatized, or we just live in a culture that's constantly criticizing us for how we look or how big or how small or how old or how whatever fill in the blank our body is. And our tiny acts of self-care, the tiny choices that we make to skip the sugar or say, just seltzer for me, no wine tonight, or I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk, or I'm going to get to bed early tonight. Those tiny acts of self-care lead to this feeling of self-trust and self-love. I think sometimes we get it confused that we have to wait until we love ourselves before we commit to the tiny acts that lead to an overall theme of abundant, good, well-being vibes. But I think often it's the other way around. We have to commit to the tiny acts so that we can feel how much we love ourselves. So a few little client stories here to show you what I'm talking about. Christy, a private client, recently ran a retreat for, I think, around a dozen women. And she knows she needs clarity and energy to hold space and teach a dozen women for a full day. And that she needs 3 to 4 days after leading a retreat to recuperate and, rest and treat herself really well. So the time leading up to and the time after leading her retreat, she was really focused on her self-care. And she led a great retreat. And the women were so served by this work. And she felt good in the doing of it. She was able to show up leading this retreat, offering her skills, her knowledge, and this safe space for these women to heal and come together and create community. And it was her commitment to her physical and emotional vitality that enabled that retreat to be so powerful. Another client, Catherine, had some family illness and complications in her family, which so many of us can relate to, draining relationships, bad news. And she was in the midst of and committed to an alcohol-free January. Was back at the gym and was riding her bike in the mornings. And she is maintaining her self-care goals even in the midst of the turmoil. And she's so proud of herself. That's a new level of self-love and self-trust that she has achieved by staying committed to her goals, even in the midst of the shit show that is life sometimes. And finally, another woman, Allison, is doing some major hormonal balancing. And she's going off certain prescriptions, which if you've ever, weaned yourself off of a prescription, you know that there can be some side effects from going off of a drug, just as there can be side effects from using a prescription. So she's doing some real committed eating and self-care, and she's off sugar while she's also building her business and helping to create and run a huge conference for high network philanthropists. And she was saying that, if she wasn't already taking care of her body, she wouldn't be able to do this work on this incredible project. So each of these women committed to her body and her self-love, her self-care. And now she's able to have the impact that she wanted. And she's able to show up. Each woman is in relationship. 2 of the women are moms, right? Their self, focusing on that. Man, I know it sounds trite, but that put your oxygen mask on first is so important. So when you hear people making fun of that idea or downplaying, put your own oxygen mask on first. Yes, like they tell you to do that on an airplane for a reason. It's life or death on an airplane. Like put on your mask first so that you don't pass out, so that you can help the other person. That's the truth of it. So if you've been feeling like, ugh, I'm off track, what do I do? I'm so upset with myself. No matter where you are on your self-care journey today, every moment is a blank slate opportunity. You can recommit to your wellness and body again right now. Even if yesterday was all about Twinkies and Doritos, or if you blew up and had a fight with someone, or if you haven't slept well in the last 3 nights, you deserve to feel good, and you can commit and recommit to your wellness and your body again right now. You will feel better soon. Over the next few months, I'm going to be sharing more interviews with really incredible women, authors, mentors, teachers, builders, creators, not just about their work, but their work is absolutely a big part of the story. They are creating nonprofits. They do trauma work with adult survivors of childhood abuse, community building, skincare creators. It's about what they're making and why, but it's also, the interviews will talk about how they have made their own self-care a focus of their service and creative leadership. I just think it's important for all of us to hear over and over again from people that are doing the work. Maybe you're super impressed by some of the people that I'm going to have here on the show or interviews that I've had in the past. And I want you to know that you're no different, that your dreams and ideas and goals are as doable as anyone you've heard here that you admire. And that the women and the few men that I interview here on this show make it to the level of success and service and creation in part because of their commitment to their bodies. We are still physical beings. And I can't remember who said it. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So, maybe your creative ideas come from the source or God or the muses, but we are still physical beings that need to use our hands and our bodies and wake up every morning and feed ourselves so that we can do it and so that we can just enjoy a nice day off. I went for a walk today and my knee didn't hurt. And that's kind of a miracle considering how many surgeries I've had on this poor knee. But it's taken a lot of work to get there. It's taken a lot of surgeries and it's taken a lot of Pilates. And it's so worth it. So I just want to welcome you back to your commitment. And I want to introduce you now to Robin Bronk, who's the CEO of the Creative Coalition, where artists are inspired to use the voice they were given to make the nation better. Now, if you haven't heard of the Creative Coalition, I think we all owe them some thanks. Back in 1989, the actor Ron Silver brought together a group of writers, actors, producers, directors, designers, and all these people from the entertainment world and founded the Creative Coalition. Now, they're not necessarily a totally 100% like-minded political group, but they are people who want to use their skills and savvy to stand up for the arts, federal funding for the arts, free speech, and arts education. And this is not a red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican issue. In fact, there's some pretty astounding information that I learned from Robin about the economic impact of the arts on the U.S. economy that I thought was so fascinating. So I wanted to interview Robin about her work at the Creative Coalition because what they're doing, and the members of the Creative Coalition include Patricia Arquette, Alfred Woodard, Marlo Thomas, who I love so much. Her album, Free to Be You and Me, I could probably recite that word for word. Chuck D, Stanley Tucci, Rob Lowe, and on and on and on and on. It's like a Vanity Fair Oscar party invite list. That's who's in the Creative Coalition. Now, these people are standing up to fight for and promote access to the arts for everyone. regardless of class, gender, or politics. I found this really inspiring, and I hope you do too. So please enjoy me chatting with Robin Bronk from the Creative Coalition. Robin Bronk from the Creative Coalition, thank you so much for being on Her Rules Radio today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I had so much fun going to your website to learn about your organization after meeting you at a very cool, powerhouse women networking event. And I have watched a bunch of the videos, learned about the Creative Coalition. So you have been CEO of this artists group, which really is a huge understatement about what the Creative Coalition is. So tell us about what the work is and how you got into this organization.
Sure. It's nothing better than talking about me, really. So feel free to interrupt. So my background is, as I was a lobbyist and a strategist for doing a lot of lobbying and cause marketing in Washington, D.C. And the Creative Coalition had formed. It was galvanized about 10 years before I came on board. And it was started by actors who happened to be activists as well, probably activists who happened to be actors and who were also friends. And it was started when President Reagan wanted to zero out the funding for the National Endowment of the Arts. And it was started by Alec Baldwin, Susan Sarandon, and Chris Reeve to use the power of the entertainment industry to promote issues of social welfare and specifically to support arts in the schools and arts in the communities. And our mission has not really changed in the years and in the decades. We wish that the National Endowment of the Arts would not be on the cutting block, but we'd like to move on to other things, but it consistently is. And so what we do is we marshal the power and platform of the entertainment industry, of artists and executives, and that's very broadly in the arts and entertainment arenas, to make positive impact on the social welfare of this nation. And basically what that means is that we live in a country where arts is not a red issue nor a blue issue. It's kind of a stepchild issue. And it's an orphan issue in a lot of ways, because it's not we realize this. There are a lot of life and death situations happening, rocketing at us every day. And you're not going to quickly, arts is not a fatal quick at citizenry, but it's more of the arthritis and a slow and painful death of citizenry. And so our job is to ensure that the arts thrive and flourish in this country, and that it thrives and flourishes through public funding. And we do a lot of programs to underscore the efficacy of the arts. We have a program called Voices of Impact Dinners, where we meet with leaders in the entertainment industry about issues on the top of the social welfare agenda, or ones that should be on the top of the social welfare agenda. We have mentoring programs. We go to Capitol Hill every year, just like Chris Reeve and Susan Sarandon and Alec Baldwin did 30 years ago, to literally go door to door in Congress to collect the votes needed to ensure that there's funding for the National Endowment of the Arts. And that was a long-winded answer. I apologize. I can usually do it in 2 elevators.
It actually speaks to, I think, the hefty import of the work that the Creative Coalition is doing. I was pretty blown away the further down the rabbit hole I went. I mean, first of all, the board and the members, when you look at the list on the website, it reads like the invitation list to the Vanity Fair Oscar party. It truly is, right? It's people who are A-list actors and also some not so well named, but they are really, really passionate. I mean, they're putting their personal names and reputation on the line to stand up for something they believe in. And I think that's really interesting, because I have a lot of questions, but I wanted to speak to this real, this weird dark side that the United States definitely has. A lot of people get angry when actors or other artists step out of their fictional or creative roles to make political statements.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a fascinating phenomenon, because first of all, and let's just use actors, because, there's a lot of people have influences and platforms, whether you're CEO of a company or, whatever it is, you have there are many different places of power and places of influence. Actors in particular, it's so interesting for me when people say, oh, they're just doing that for the publicity. Well, let's think of it. that half the, any actor that gets involved in issues and or politics, which are two different things, half their fan base won't like it.
Right.
So they are putting their jobs on the line. Can you imagine with your job, you and I, we do something that puts our job on the line with half of our supporters? I mean, that would be crazy. So it's about the most unselfish form of advocacy. People don't understand that it's the worst thing an actor can do for their career, because there will always be people on the other side.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, artists, actors, writers are the storytellers, whether they wrote the words or they're performing the words. And I also see this interesting shade of, we are in a time of disinformation, of information warfare. And whoever tells the best story, the loudest, is the one who's going to control the narrative. So it's interesting that we say actors, you go over there and keep your mouth shut, but we're humans and we learn through stories and we're attracted to powerful stories. So are we just a bunch of hypocrites?
What do you mean by that? I followed up until you said, aren't we just a bunch of hypocrites?
That it's so important to be a good storyteller in this age of information that we're in.
But it's also so important. We all have responsibilities. We also live in an age where we're trying to teach the next generation to take on responsibilities of citizenship. And all of us, whether you're an actor or everyone lives in a community. Everyone has some sort of family or had some people who made an impact on them, or some, whether it was their school, their community theater, the Girl Scouts. I mean, there was something that helped make you a success, and look at things in a way that behooves you and behooves the community. So it's about giving back. I mean, that's what this, we're expected. It's an expectancy of citizenry, no matter where you are, that you have this zeitgeist. We'd like to increase, what does one give back into the community, the world, this planet?
Yeah.
So, and it's not hypocritical. Why should an actor who's, as you mentioned, saying the words, or whether, an actor realizes it or not, every second that they're in your living room on your screen, wherever your screen is, they are impacting you. So with that, it does go some responsibility, and we hope, and that's what we want to engender.
Yeah.
That sense of responsibility.
You were just speaking about inspiring and enabling the next generation, our kids, in a way. So let's talk about art funding and what it does for kids. Like, let's make it plain. Why is art education, which is always on the chopping block, always the first thing to go, why is it so beneficial to kids?
Well, it's crazy. There's art for art's sake for all of us. And we, for whatever reason, there's not really this grand gestures of appreciation for art for art's sake. So let's get to the economics of it. Because again, economy is not a red issue or blue issue. It's everyone's for a robust and vibrant economy. So if you want to look at it that way, for every dollar that a community spends on the arts, $7 comes back to that community. The percentage of kids who have arts in schools, who then go on to be contributing members of society and successful members of society, is exponentially greater than those who do not. So there are so many facts and figures. If you don't, if the whole art for art's sake is just too amorphous and not tangible enough, there are so many facts and figures about why funding public arts is so beneficial to our citizenry.
Yeah, it's astounding that the arts and entertainment, and this includes a lot of different things. It includes everything from public performances to museums to, installations, whatever. Public art contributes more to the U.S. economy than agriculture.
Right. That's and by the way, we go back to the entertainment industry. Entertainment is the biggest export beyond agriculture. It's so, and those, who make their living from entertainment, who give back to give back, whether it's, pay taxes, bring jobs in, it all started with the arts.
Right.
You know, they somewhere in there, somewhere, they were exposed to the arts.
No, I heard recently a story, and maybe it was even at the event that I met you in, where, we all have this idea that the National Endowment for the Arts, it's on the chopping block every single time there's a budgetary discussion. But in the last budget, they actually got more money. Is this true? Because they were able to show these facts. There was finally the numbers to back it up that the arts are a driver.
It wasn't finally. The numbers have been around for about 20 years. I think John was the person who, convened the meeting, or the gathering. I mean, he had just been on we do an arts day every year, and literally it's just good old fashioned advocacy. We go door to door in Congress presenting the facts. So, these facts, and it's from, the U.S. Department of Labor Department, the Department of Statistics, they've been around a long time. It wasn't until recently that, Congress had to be convinced that arts are a great economic investment. It did stand up, art for art's sake stood up, but
yeah. Okay. So when you go door to door, you're down in Washington, D.C., what are you actually doing? Are you going and saying, hey, here's facts and figures? What are you trying to do to get them
literally, we do everything that one would do in an advocacy day. We have various celebrities coming. We have celebrities that if they're from a certain state or they have ties to a certain state, we go to those members of Congress from that state. But we present the facts and figures that mean something. If we're meeting with a member of Congress from Ohio, we will have delved in, looked into, and say, this town in Ohio that was going broke, well, they got an NEA grant to start a community theater, and the community theater has now brought in $7 for every $1 that they spent. So we go in, as any advocacy group would, with the facts and figures that would mean something to that voting member.
Interesting. Do you ever get, a brusque or not so excited response during those meetings?
We do. Well, it's funny. They get very excited about meeting famous folk. And the famous folk get very excited about meeting lawmakers. So it's this symbiotic relationship. And, the best thing is when we get these members of Congress or the administration to look at something the way they hadn't before. Like, for instance, did you know that, some, whatever the percentage is, some huge percentage of high school kids who have arts go on to college, go on to be productive, go on to make at least a salary. So we love to do eye-opening and hey, wow moments.
Yeah.
And, it's got to hit home because it's just, it's not something it's hard to point to why it is so necessary to have the beauty and the enrichment of arts in our lives if we don't look at statistics. You kind of have to. Listen, we live in this day and age when, money is dear and there's a lot of very viable things that need funding. So I get it. I mean, I live in this country and this world too.
What does it mean to you? How have you personally been touched by art? If you had to try to explain it, and it's an amorphous thing, it's tough to say why art is so important to us.
Well, a couple reasons. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, in Clemson, and that was before a lot of people knew what Clemson, before they became national champions. And we had one movie theater and a couple of traffic lights, and we were, it was also a lot of kids at that time hadn't been out of the state, and it wasn't air travel like it is now, and there wasn't we weren't on the internet, and we had 3 television stations. So when the community theater was and it was publicly funded, was this magical place that opened the doors and opened our eyes to what else was going on in the world, or what else had been going on, and why, the musical Music Man was a history lesson as well. And I know, being very active in arts organizations, I've heard stories of students, kids who are dyslexic, and then they studied Shakespeare, and things started making sense. It was, art brought the words alive and history alive. And so that's my personal story, is that it was just, we could, having musicals on a community theater stage it brought Broadway to our doorstep.
Yeah, that's interesting. My own son has dyslexia, And we only just discovered that listening to audiobooks it changed books and reading for him completely.
That's why, the history of closed captioning. Closed captioning, by the way, is one of the greatest tools that was not, invented for the use of people with dyslexia, but it's one of the greatest reading tools. Because you
fascinating.
See, yeah.
That's very cool.
So arts, it opened the world of possibilities. And it also, we also know that it helps with strategic thinking. There's a great tie between math and art, math and music. Many great mathematicians started out playing an instrument and learn. There's this incredible relationship with that.
Yeah. I recently met an artificial intelligence expert. He's actually working on an AI platform right now that he said, essentially, we're going to put radiologists out of business in the next 10 years. There won't be radiologists anymore.
Wow.
Which I was a little conflicted about, but that's another story. And he said, what's your kid into? I said, actually, he's an artist. He wants to be an artist. And he said, great. I always tell people, have your kids be poets, not accountants, because accountants won't be a job in 20 years.
Yeah.
And we got into this whole discussion about how creative thinking and art classes and music and being a creative thinker is a skill set that is more and more important, whether you're in corporate America or an entrepreneur. I just found that fascinating from an AI expert to hear that.
Yeah, it would be such a disservice to the next generation, to our generation, to not understand the efficacy of the arts. It would be such a dark age in that way.
Yeah. So what's important for us to do now? What can our listeners, how can they be better advocates for the arts?
Well, go to our website and we kind of take you through that. It's www.thecreativecoalition.org. And also when they're voting or they're coming into an election, look at, because arts education is a state issue. Look and see if the funding of the arts is on anyone's platforms.
Yeah.
If there are any planks on that, coming out. It sounds kind. We're going to be looking at the DNC and the RNC to have some sort of arts funding as a plank in the platforms, because a nation without support of the arts is a bereft nation.
Yeah.
It leads to so much else.
It does. And you said the Creative Coalition will be involved with both the Democratic and the Republican national conventions?
Have historically, for the last several decades, we are at both the DNC and the RNC. We have issue panels. We bring, as I say, leaders from the 51st state of Hollywood to observe and to have a presence there. And we are all about how the arts change lives for the better.
That is fascinating. And it was really interesting to go to the website, learn more about what your organization is doing. And you have this great series of PSAs that people can watch.
Yes, we do.
The Right to Bear Arts.
The Right to Bear Arts. And in fact, our president of the organization, the actor Tim Daly, most recently from Madam Secretary, came up with that. And we just hashtag everything The Right to Bear Arts, because it crosses over so many issues. And, we were some of the incubators when STEM became STEAM. We were sitting in the White House at a meeting at one of our arts advocacy days, and they had just introduced STEM, and Tim said, whoa, why isn't it STEAM? And
So explain what STEM to STEAM means.
So STEM is the national initiative to promote science, technology, engineering, and math. And there was no A in STEM. And Tim was instrumental in making sure STEM became STEAM, and that arts are also part of the priority impact areas.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So, we can point to some things.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we're going to include links to those videos and to the website.
Oh, that's great. And if anyone has a platform to play those videos, we want to share them. We'll put your promotional card on the back of it. Just get them out there. It's about the message.
That's great. Robin, thank you so much. I love the work that you're doing, and we're going to be sending people your way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Her Rules Radio. If you love the show, found this interesting, or are inspired by it, go on over to iTunes and leave a review. It really helps new listeners find the show. And send the show to a friend. Just click the link and share it with somebody that you think will be inspired by this. We'll be back next week. We've got tons of great interviews set up for the next couple of months. Thanks for being here. See you soon. Mwah.